Hello, I'm Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to our program. And of course, today I have joining me our National Director, Father Frank Pavone. Welcome, Father.
It's great to be here.
Well,
we have a great audience, too.
I know. And it's always, Father, there's always breaking news, all right?
Yes.
And all over Facebook, there's this, though at least they're calling it fake news, but there's a news story going out saying that the treatments that they gave the president for coronavirus contain cell lines from aborted babies.
No, listen, it's not true. And we have to look at this presidency from the point of view of policy. You know, you and I were down at EWTN a year ago, June. It was when we got the announcement out of the President's Department of Health and Human Services that they were terminating the payment of contracts that involve research projects utilizing the tissue from aborted babies.
Right.
And they applied the law to that. The president, in other words, enforced and utilized existing law, took executive action. And for those research projects within the government, he said there will be no funding. For those research projects that are called extramural, they come from outside the government, the law says an ethics board will have to review each proposal. So the president said, well, you know, we have ethical objections over the use of baby body parts. And this goes, you know, whether it's later on in pregnancy. I mean, the moral objection covers the entire life of the child from the beginning. And so what they did was they just recently, as some of our viewers might know, they gave a status report on the enforcement of this policy. And they said there were 14 research projects presented to the government from outside. The president had this 15-person panel. Some of the people on that panel we know, and like Dr. David Prentice, for example. And they reviewed these 14 proposals. You know what? The Trump administration took the advice of this ethics panel, which advised that 13 of the 14 proposals be rejected.
Wow, that's great.
And it was for the very moral reason that the president put forth. We don't want to use babies' bodies for medical research. That's a Nazi Holocaust idea. That's right. Not an American idea.
So this fake news story broke today. Like I said, it's all over the place. And good friends of ours at the Charlotte Lozier Institute, they researched it. And there's if everyone subscribes to Life News, they have a full article and all the research there, and they're a very reliable source.
Well, they're a pro-life research arm of the Susan B. Anthony list. They're friends, are all friends of ours and colleagues. The point is that, look, we have to develop a habit of thinking here, because it's a little bit disturbing when we say, you know, oh, well, you know, it's all over, you know, all people are talking about all over social media. You know, sometimes we just have to pause and take a step back. And say, wait a minute, we know this is a pro-life administration. Like, you could start with that. We know this is a pro-life administration. So if we're hearing something like this, you know, take it with a grain of salt, or maybe a whole salt shaker worth of salt. And take a step back and listen. You got to judge. Like, one of our viewers was just giving us a beautiful comment. We posted it on the screen during the intro. I think it was Deanne Miller saying, you know, there she is. Policy over personality.
That's right.
Facts over lies. That's what we're talking about here.
We're talking about fact checking. You know, when you hear something, do you check the facts, right?
And do it with the starting presumption that, listen, we know this president is against all these unethical things. It's the same thing. I was on the phone with some of the people in the administration about the development of in Operation Warp Speed, of the COVID vaccines. Now, whether people are going to use vaccines, we know that that's a problem for some people in conscience.
Well, it's a big problem for Kamala Harris. There, you know, she's not going to use it because she calls it a Trump vaccine.
We're going to get it. We should get.
We're going to get into that in a minute.
But the point is that I'm making is that the No. People have to understand that they're not using the stem cells for that. They're not. And so these are being developed in ethical ways because the president is committed to that. He's committed to the ethical ethics in medicine and pro-life
Exactly.
ethics.
Well, Father, I think we have a question here. If you could read it. This is from, it says, hello, can the president get local government to please treat people earlier when they get COVID?
Well, okay. So now what we know from the president is two things. That first of all, he was just talking again the other day on a little video that he made. He said, it was the fact that he got this virus, which, any sane and decent person doesn't wish anyone to get the virus, although we know that some people on the left are not sane and they're not decent.
I know.
But the point is that he said, this was a blessing in disguise. Because here this is the top person in the world, when you think about it, fighting this virus.
Right.
The top person in the world. And he said, now I understand it better than ever. And now I have more confidence fighting it better than ever. And the treatment that he got was so effective. He's got the military now helping in the distribution of dosages around the country of these effective medications.
Right.
So in answer to our questioner, we know two things. Number one, that the president, as he has been doing throughout this crisis, throughout this pandemic, mobilizing government like never before. Absolutely like never before. The Congress created a report. They issued it just a week ago today on the coronavirus response from the government. Not a very, very lengthy document, but a very detailed one showing that there are many different plans that have been instituted. There's a different plan for each aspect of fighting the virus. So there's a plan for the distribution of medications, there's a plan for the development of the treatments, there's a plan for the reopening of the schools. We're using the input of 97,000 pediatricians. There's a plan for all these different things. So people that want to blame the president, not that our questioner is not doing this, but people who want to blame the president, you didn't do good enough with this, he's relying on tens of thousands of experts. He's not doing it all by himself, in his room with a pen and pencil and paper. The point I'm making, the second part of this though, so he's distributing very quickly the medications for this, as he's been doing right from the beginning, whatever's been available. But here's the second thing, because our questioner talked about local governments.
Right.
We have a structure of government in this country.
Oh, yeah.
The federal government is, by design of our founding fathers, at arm's distance from the running of our day-to-day lives. We don't want, our founders did not want the federal government making all these local decisions. Right. So that's why you often hear the president say, like in regard to the governors, when it comes to COVID, that coronavirus task force, during the most intensive days of this,
conference calls with the governors.
Regularly with the governors, right?
And asking, what do you need?
And now, all the governors, they got everything they needed. First of all, we need to
absolutely.
understand. They were
more than.
And a lot of the Democrat governors were praising the president's job on this.
Cuomo being one of the big
maybe
people.
They should talk to Kamala and Biden and
let them know all the good
that
things.
They were happy.
In fact,
they probably weren't listening.
In fact, Governor Cuomo from the federal government got more ventilators. He got the Army Corps of Engineers. They set up the Jacob Javits Center.
I remember,
to have it be a hospital with ventilators and beds. And that ship, they
sent the ship, the Mercy.
The Mercy.
And guess what? I think it was the Comfort. That
the Comfort.
The Mercy was in California.
California. Yeah. Okay, but guess what? Not one person ended up in a hospital bed in the Javits Center, yet Cuomo sent COVID patients back to nursing homes.
So
you know what I'm trying to say?
No, he fumbled.
He fumbled the ball.
But the point is, and so the point that we're making is that the federal government stands ready to help.
Right.
Whenever a state needs the help. But the president doesn't govern the state, the governor does.
Right.
Now, it's the same thing with, so like he's often said in his remarks, he said, listen, I've told the governors, they need to ask me. They need to come to me for help. And during the worst of the COVID crisis, which now, thank God, is behind us, the worst of it is behind us, the fact of the matter is that they did go to him for help, and he provided the help. Now, it's the same thing with the riots that broke out then in the cities.
Oh, that was the exact same thing.
The same phenomenon of local federal government.
He was saying
we want to come in.
We'll come in with the National Guard. We'll come
solve
in
the
with
situation.
our special forces.
He said, we'll fix it in half an hour.
Right. We'll have Homeland Security, you name it, we'll bring them in there.
But he says they have to ask me.
They have to ask. And of course in Seattle, they're still creating trouble over there. And they're still not asking for the help they can get. It's crazy. It really is. It's insane. Question, Father, what does it say?
Please address the issue of how many Christians it will take to put president in Congress, and as Christians who are voting, what can we do? Okay, good question, Frida there. The question raises the problematic issue that there are tens of millions of Christians
that don't vote.
Now, some of the experts that study this, I've seen figures as high as 50 million, that half of them don't vote because they're not even registered, and the other half are registered but they don't show up at the polls. So just in the Christian world itself, we could win every election.
If they're going to vote, of course, for the president.
If they would go and vote, vote their values, right?
Vote your values.
Vote,
and speaking of values, Father, let's
and this is part of the answer, too.
This is part of the answer, okay, because here at Priest for Life, we have a thing called a party comparison. See, brothers and sisters, and it compares the Republican and Democratic Party. Now, these are excerpts from the party platform, and so we take 6 issues, which that's what makes it 501c3 friendly. We have a legal letter from lawyers saying this is okay to give out in churches and nonprofits. But the issues we have here are human life, Planned Parenthood, judges, education and school choice, sex education, and foreign assistance. Quotes right from the party platform, and on the other side, it's in Espanol. We will send this to you absolutely free of charge. Free of charge. Just go to our online store at prolifeproducts.org, and you can order as many of these party comparisons. In fact, my staff is coming in tomorrow on Saturday, working throughout the weekend to fill these orders. So again, prolifeproducts.org. Just go up there, go click on the election materials, the party comparison, and then, Father, maybe let's say this little prayer for them. This is our election prayer card. Tell them about our election prayer campaign.
Well, and this goes back to our questioner, which is a very important question. What do we do to get these Christians involved?
Well, maybe if they say this prayer, that might help.
Because this prayer, if a pastor uses this prayer,
right,
this can help more Christians get activated to vote. Because as you'll see when we say it, that's one of the things it prays for.
Right.
That people will get out and vote.
Exactly.
And secondly, what does a congregation expect its pastor to do? Well, they expect him or her, in some cases, to lead them in prayer.
Right.
Well, then, this is a prayer. Lead them. And if you get them praying about the election, you got them thinking about the election. You got them thinking about the election, maybe they'll do something about the election. So that's our hope with this prayer campaign. So we'll send you these cards and give them to your pastor, and we'll say the prayer together. Yeah, absolutely. Let us pray. Oh God, we acknowledge you today as Lord, not only of individuals, but of nations and governments. We thank you for the privilege of being able to organize ourselves politically, and of knowing that political loyalty does not have to mean disloyalty to you. We thank you for your law, which our founding fathers acknowledged and recognized as higher than any human law. We thank you for the opportunity that this election puts before us to exercise our solemn duty not only to vote, but to influence countless others to vote and to vote correctly. Lord, we pray that your people may be awakened. Let them realize that while politics is not their salvation, their response to you requires that they be politically active. Awaken your people to know that they are not called to be a sect fleeing the world, but rather a community of faith renewing the world. Awaken them that the same hands lifted up to you in prayer are the hands that pull the lever in the voting booth, that the same eyes that read your word are the eyes that read the names on the ballot, and that they do not cease to be Christians when they enter the voting booth. Awaken your people to a commitment to justice, to the sanctity of marriage and the family, to the dignity of each individual human life, and to the truth that human rights begin when human lives begin, and not one moment later. Lord, we rejoice today that we are citizens of your kingdom. May that make us all the more committed to being faithful citizens on earth. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. So that's the prayer campaign. Electionprayer.com. is the website.
And of course, like I just told you, go to prolifeproducts.org. When you order the comparison guide, you can also order those prayer cards. We'll send them, stacks of 100, as many as you need. Get them out to your church and just all the people you know. Well, Father, we have a question here from Iris, and she says, I can't understand how people can be Catholic and vote pro-choice. What can she say to them? Oh, boy.
well, first of all, I don't understand how you can even be human and vote pro-choice. I mean, it's so...
Well, first, it's right, Father. It's a human rights issue.
It's violence.
Right.
You can't... So we have to approach this on a couple of different levels. We can say, look, even putting the Catholic question aside, you say to your friend, and of course, how much you're going to influence them all depends on what your relationship is, and the level of trust and communication. But you say to them, look, do you realize the damage abortion does? First of all, what is an abortion? Because a lot of people, the word has lost its meaning. So you go to lookatabortion.org. That's one of the, we know. It's one of the most powerful things. Look at the pictures. Lookatabortion.org. My friends, that could be the solution, the answer right there.
Well, because so many people...
I didn't know it was...
Those are the most viewed pages on our website. Yes. And people, when we get comments, Father, all the time.
I had no idea.
I had no idea.
Right.
I can't support this if that's what it does to a baby.
So that's on the first level. And in fact, here's what the webpage looks like. Looking at abortion in the eye, and it has a whole bunch of galleries of photos of what an abortion does. And it's really gruesome, and it's really... So, that's one thing. Then, how it plays into politics? Well, the church's teaching about the preeminence of the issue of abortion is based on human reason. And here's a few little simple talking points. Number one, what takes more human life than anything else? It's not poverty. It's not climate change. It's not terrorism.
It's not the coronavirus.
Crime. It's not the coronavirus. It's not the riots.
It's not AIDS.
No, it's abortion.
It's abortion.
So number one is the arithmetic. Nothing takes more lives. Number two is the victims. Who's the most defenseless victim of
anything? An innocent victim.
Innocent. Who of any group of victims is the most defenseless? The unborn baby. And then point number three, and these are all just points from logic and reason. This is not even
it's not
church
any doctrine.
Religious
this is not doctrine. Right.
Point number three is what right is most fundamental to all the other rights?
Right to life.
As remember Archbishop Foley, he became Cardinal Foley. He used to talk to us all the time. We would see him at different times. He was the one that said that time when we interviewed him. He said it very simply, and I quote it all the time. Since he's passed away, he became the Vatican's head of social communication. He went like this. Remember, he said to us, if you don't have life, you don't have anything.
I know.
And it's so simple and so true. And that's these 3 points. The most victims, the most defenseless victims, and the most fundamental right. That's why the abortion issue is foundational. It's not because there aren't other issues. It's not because the other issues aren't important. It's because the other issues are issues in the first place, and they're important precisely because life is important.
That's right. And of course, Father, the Declaration of Independence starts with life. You have to have life first before you can have liberty, and then before you can pursue your happiness.
Yeah.
So life is first.
I hope that's a helpful answer. But here on our website, Pro-Life Vote, you'll get a lot more.
Here's a good question, Father, from Robert Howard.
Robert has a good question.
Okay, I'm able to go vote right now where I am, but I'm hesitant to vote early. Is it safe to vote early?
Okay.
Well, yes, it is safe, Robert, to vote early. Because you're going to go actually to the poll. You're going to go to the place. If you're physically going to the poll, and I don't know how it is in your state, you're filling out a form. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of states, they're asking to check your ID and they match it. And then your ballot goes into a locked container. So that's very, very safe. Now, for some of you out there, I know a lot of states, like New Jersey, sent mail-in ballots to the whole state.
That's absurd.
Absurd. I know people have told me, oh yeah, my grandma passed away, we still got a ballot for her. This one passed away, we got a ballot. Now, in those cases, whether you have an absentee ballot or a mail ballot, do not mail it back. Fill it out and go to the Board of Elections in your county. One of my friends in New Jersey. Bring it back yourself. They just did this the other day. And Father, they had her, actually, it was like the voting book. They took it out and she had a sign. Her signature was there on file where it usually would be. if she had voted in person, she signed her name, and she watched them put her ballot into that locked box container.
Well, and if a person can't get out, I mean, obviously we understand too that sometimes people can't get out. If you mail in your ballot, if you have to mail in your ballot, you can always verify with the Board of Elections that it arrived.
That's right.
And in this current climate, that would be a good idea to do. Verify. Just ask them. Hey, listen. How can I set my ballot in last week? Give it a few days to arrive, right? But then give a call and say, I sent in my absentee ballot. Could you please verify for me? See, I think one of the key things that here we have to remember is don't be intimidated.
No.
Sometimes going to the polling place can be a little intimidating, and we almost act like, you're like, oh, we're very, sort of passive. And like, no. You're a voter. You're the one with the rights.
Exactly.
All the people that are working there, they're serving you.
Exactly.
Right? If anyone should be intimidated, they should be, not us. We're going there as voters, exercising our right. And listen, these people are supposed to be at your service. So you need help, ask them. You got a question, ask them. And that's important. James, hey, how are you?
Okay, good question. Do you believe a virtual debate is constructive or deceptive?
Very
boy, I have
question.
plenty to say about this.
Yes.
And listen, I would not trust a virtual debate for the following reason. I'm sitting here right now looking at you at this camera. But what you can't see is that right beyond that, I could have my teleprompter. And the teleprompter, my staff could be over there.
Or 100 staff.
Or 100 staff could be over here, and they could be feeding me information in the teleprompter.
And you don't know the difference.
And you have no idea that I'm reading right from a teleprompter. So that's why I'm sure the president's saying, listen, we could do this debate in person safely. If you watched Kamala Harris and Vice President Pence the other night, oh my goodness, they were what, Father? 12 feet apart with a big plastic
you know what? The
them.
plexiglass, I got to laugh at that.
I know. But then they entered, Father, from separate areas, and they went back the same way, and they got it back in their motorcade. There is no reason in the world why you cannot do a debate safely in that fashion. So no, I would not trust virtual debate.
As Aggie, I hope I'm saying it right, also would not agree to it. President should say no, never, which he has said. And it's because of that dynamic, as you said, and also because we have a history with Biden.
Right.
We have a history of all kinds of evidence of how he is fed questions and prepared for the questions, and it's scripted and it's played and it's like.
I'll tell you, Father, I also have a big problem with its presidential debate commission because there's already been shenanigans, starting with the first debate.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry, Chris Wallace?
Oh, no, he did
was
a terrible job.
You could tell he was favoring Biden.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But here's another known fact. That lady that did the debate Thursday night, guess what? Guess who she's working on a biography for? She's writing a biography for Nancy Pelosi.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and also now this fellow who's
the next guy, Scurry,
was scheduled for them.
Was
an intern for no other than
Senator Joseph Biden. And it went further. People say, but he only interned for Biden for 1 month. But
what?
But no, it gets better, Father. He went on to work for Senator Ted Kennedy. To me, the moderators that they're selecting are in favor of Biden. To me, okay, then guess what? If they have those people, I think if they do an in-person debate next, I think we should have maybe Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson be the moderator.
Maybe you have to have. There's got to be a solution to this. And I don't know, first of all, how many neutral people there are. First of all, I don't know if that's a reality. But secondly, let's say it's not. Well, then maybe you need to have two moderators.
Two moderators,
okay?
Yes.
One of whom is...
that each campaign selects.
Right.
Okay?
And they have equal power, so to speak.
Yes.
In other words, that each this would be a good model. I'm just thinking of this now. Suppose you had two moderators, okay, each of them of a different leaning. Okay?
Right.
And each moderator has the right to follow up on what the other moderator asked.
Well, that and the other thing, Father, yes, and the other thing too is if you have the two moderators and the debate goes on for an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
So the moderator number one goes for 15 minutes, then the next one goes another 15 minutes, and you alternate that answering the questions in different segments. Like
with the right to follow up, because the moderator,
right.
him or herself. I mean, look at this debate that we just had. I mean,
oh my goodness.
First of all, some of the questions were like not things the American people are concerned about, and they were theoretical and speculative. And oh
yeah, Father Cheryl's saying, "Oh, Father Frank should be the moderator." Bravo, Father, and I'll help you. How's that, Father Frank and Janet? We'll moderate.
We would have a
lot of fun. But
yeah.
Father, you talked about the debate the other night. First of all, some of the questions they asked were asked and answered already. I'm so sick of this Ku Klux Klan and Charlottesville question keeps.
The Charlottesville thing,
oh my gosh.
For goodness sake. The president said there was this dispute, there were peaceful protesters, and then later violent people came. The president said there are good people on both sides.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, there are.
Right.
He's talking about the peaceful people.
Right.
He made it clear he was talking about the peaceful people, and he made clear that he condemns the violence. I mean, first of all, how can anyone assume otherwise?
Right.
It's blatantly judgmental. It's calumny. It's slander. I mean, anyone in their right mind, you don't even think otherwise as a starting point than that the President of the United States would condemn violence. But this story it goes on and on. And this shows the ill will
yes,
of the Democrats.
It's definitely ill will.
It's ill will of the Democrats.
But it was ill will, too, of the moderator to even ask the question.
The question, it's a moot point.
Yeah.
It's a closed case.
See, I think Vice President said, asked and answered already. Next question. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the other thing I thought was very funny, right at the beginning when they got into the coronavirus, and Kamala so proudly sat there going, and Joe, I mean, she kept calling him Joe. Joe and I, this is our plan. La, 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 la. She listened. And then Vice President go, oh, I think that's plagiarism because that's what President Trump and I have been doing.
You're taking stuff, you're telling us, well, yeah, but you know
this
what?
This is our playbook. This is what we've been doing.
If you remember, during the height of the coronavirus,
right.
We were hearing, oh, well, Joe Biden, every once in a while he would peek out from his basement and say, oh, well, the president should be doing this. Or like he should, at one point he said he should invoke the Defense Production Act. He had already did
it.
It was like Biden
wasn't too busy in his basement not paying attention.
He wasn't paying attention.
But let's repeat what Pence said the other night, back at the end of January, when the president boldly said, that's it, all travel to China banned,
right.
No more incoming flights, no one from China can enter our country.
Right.
And Biden called him a xenophobe.
He said it was xenophobic and hysterical.
What? Pelosi went to Chinatown and said,
these people are just...
They're ridiculous.
Well, listen, I'm going to let you take the rest of the questions because I actually have to jump on a call with the...
this lady wants to know, how can she sign up to be on the prayer call? How can they sign up to be Catholics for Trump prayer calls? That's what she's asking.
Oh, that prayer call?
Yeah.
Catholics for Trump? Catholics.donaldjtrump.com
right.
is the little website for you can sign up on the website, catholics.donaldjtrump.com, or you can text the word Catholic, singular, Catholic, to 88022. 88022. Maybe we can put that on the screen. But those are the ways you would sign up. But in any case, I am going to go on a call with the campaign right now. So okay. I'm going to let you continue with the questions. Thanks, friends. It's great to be with you. But Janet's going to continue, so stay with us.
Okay. All right. Well, while Father scurries past my camera now, I just want to check with our director over there. If I missed any questions, are we all good? All the questions have been answered? If so, there goes Father. He's leaving to go talk to the campaign. Okay, why are the Republicans agreeing to these moderators? See, they're not agreeing to them. This is the problem. It's this commission on presidential debates that's been around forever, and I don't know. In fact, I'm going to have to research this. How do you get on this commission? And I just have this feeling there's more Democrats than Republicans on the commission. But what it does is the commission decides it. And these decisions were made months and months ago. As you know, they announced, a few months ago, when the dates of the debates, where they would be, who the moderators would be. So that's all decided ahead of time. And I do remember that there was a movement here by the Republicans to try to get the debate commission to move the debates up more, earlier in September, because you look at it this way, that first debate was the end of September, but early voting had already begun in so many states. And it's almost crazy. When those dates were first established, like, we'll have the first debates at the end of September. Well, that's when most people went to the polls on Election Day. But the dynamic, even before coronavirus, has changed so much. Like here, where our office is in Florida, early voting starts some date in October. And actually, you can go to our website, prolifevote.com. We have listed there all the early voting dates throughout the state, so you can find that, and you can see when does early voting begin in your state. So in fact, what we really need to do is, I guess, flood that commission between now and the next presidential election with the demand almost. Start the debates right after Labor Day weekend, because the conventions are always in the summer. Traditionally, the Democrats always have their convention in July and the Republicans in August. Of course, this year, because of the coronavirus, they got pushed back even later. But really, those debates should start the very first week in September, because of so much early voting starts. Like I said, so many states, they were saying, I think the other day, almost millions of people have already voted, and you only had one debate so far. So I think there really should be more than one vice presidential debate, because the vice president does play such a crucial part in the White House and in the administration. But right now we have to pray. And that's what we have to do above everything. Remember the election prayer card that Father read. I'm going to remind you one more time, the election prayer card. And, of course, the party comparison. These are great tools. Like I said, my staff is working every weekend and evenings here to get all the materials out. Just go to prolifeproducts.org, click on the thing that says election materials, and we'll send them out to you free of charge. We just got to get this moving. We got to get the truth out there. And I think I have another question here. It says, I'm tired of the Democrats hiding their racism towards our black brothers and sisters. How would Trump bring to light the racist history of the Democratic Party circa the 2010s? I mean, I don't know how they would do that per se, but the easiest thing right now, what you can get the truth out about, is someone like Kamala Harris and the whole Democratic Party. They are funded, their elections, by Planned Parenthood, all right, funded. And as we know, Planned Parenthood targets the black community. There are more Planned Parenthoods in minority communities than out in the suburbs. So I would put a direct link between the Democratic Party and their support of Planned Parenthood. In fact, the party comparison that I was telling you about, we have that here. We have Planned Parenthood right here. And here, the Republicans' policy is the following, right from the party platform. The Republicans say, we oppose the use of public funds to perform or promote abortion or to fund organizations like Planned Parenthood, as long as they provide or refer for elective abortions or sell fetal baby body parts rather than provide health care. Now, the Democrats say from their party platform, we will repeal the Title 10 domestic gag rule and restore federal funding for Planned Parenthood. So the Democratic Party, they are in bed with Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood puts a huge amount of money, not just into the presidential campaign of the Democrats, but into the Senate and the House races. So this is a great eye-opener. It's our party comparison. Go to prolifeproducts.org, and we will get that out for you. Do we have any more questions? No? Okay, great. Well, you know what? Thanks for joining us. And next week, I've got a great lineup. On Monday, Columbus Day, I'm going to have Father Giacomo Capoverde. We're going to reflect on the real meaning of Columbus Day, but then we're going to talk about all these attacks on people being nominated for judges in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and they're picking on people for being part of the Knights of Columbus. And Father Capiverde is from Rhode Island. He's a Catholic priest from Rhode Island, and we're going to take questions from you, and we're going to hear from him. How does he and his bishop deal with these pro-abortion Catholic politicians up in Rhode Island? I'm sure that's going to be a very lively discussion. Then on Tuesday, I'm going to have Brian Kemper from our Stand True Youth Outreach. We're going to give you ideas of how young people can still get involved, even if they can't vote. We've got some ideas for our youth of how you can get involved in the election. Then at Wednesday on this time slot, Alveda King will have some very special guests. And on Thursday, I'm going to have Kevin Burke, one of the founders of Rachel's Vineyard, here, and we're going to talk about the exciting news that the Rachel's Vineyard retreat centers and the retreats are beginning to open up with all kinds of COVID guidelines and how they're functioning and doing. And Kevin also has some thoughts about the election that he's going to share. And of course, next Friday, Father Frank will be back with me to take your questions. Those thanks for joining us, and God bless.